Howdy team. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about following your intuition, trusting that gut, that icky feeling that you sometimes get when making a decision in your life or in your business. That is the guiding light to tell you the direction that you should be going along. Because when something doesn't feel right inside, it more often than not is going to be completely wrong. And I've got a rule that I stick by and I use when I have to make big decisions, when I need to take something to the next level, when I'm facing a quandary on should or shouldn't I follow a certain path. You know, how often in your life and in your business do you come to a crossroads where you feel like, do I go A or do I go B? You know, one potentially could lead to more success, more results, more income, but the other could potentially lead you down a path that isn't quite congruent with you. You know, you have to be able to make big decisions, and you have to be able to make them more often than not in business fast. And when you understand that your intuition plays a huge part in your results, you will begin to get more results. When I look back on my journey since 2006 and I think about things that have happened, where I've procrastinated, where I've not used my 3-strike rule, is more often than not kept me stuck. I don't know if you can relate to this in your own business journey, but it's vital that you take control and you listen to, you know, how it actually feels rather than potentially the thoughts inside your head. Yes, you need to apply logic. Yes, you need to think strategically. But if something doesn't feel right, if you can't be consistent, if it's just not going in the way in which you want it to, you have to know when to pull the plug. And this is where I think the 3-strike rule really comes into effect and can really help you get more results. Because when I look back, you know, when I let my best mate buy into my business in 2009 and I bought him out in 2011, thinking about that time, I could feel something wasn't quite right. But there's that thought process, the logical brain, you know, being inside your head that says, oh yeah, but he's my mate. You know, oh yeah, but, you know, we get on. Oh, but he's such a good salesman and this, that, and the other. You know, all the thoughts that were going through my head at that point in time. When in actual fact, I could feel that the way in which he was acting, the way in which he was being was not quite congruent with the direction that I wanted to take the business in. So there's always pros and cons and negatives. But when you wake up or when you have a thought, that's strike number one. If you really think, I need to get rid of that person. I need to do something about this. This person's causing grief on my team. That initial thought is strike one. When you then have the second thought around it, maybe you wake up, and if you've ever felt that anxiety in business when you're going through growth or making a big decision, if you wake up and you think about it immediately, that's almost strike number two. That is strike number two. You know, how often do you say to yourself, I'm going to sleep on it. I'm just going to wait and see, and I'm going to sleep on it. Let's see what happens and the decision's there. When you wake up, it's that snap thought. What's the first thing you think? Is it right or is it wrong? You know, in 3 seconds, if you were to click your fingers, what does your intuition, your gut tell you about the decision that you need to make? And then I always think about, okay, it's definitely playing on my mind. It's definitely something that I need to think about. Who else could I potentially speak to, get a little bit of an external insight and an external viewpoint around the decision that's got to be made? And then if I'm thinking about it still a week later and it's still, you know, pondering around and causing me some anxiety, stress, frustration, a bit of overwhelm, then I have to act on it a week later, 100%. Now, I don't use every decision method using that 3-strike rule because sometimes you just know. You 100% know that it's the best thing to do. But where you're at that crossroads and where you've got big decisions to make or where you feel like something isn't right internally, that's when you can apply the 3-strike rule. Because more often than not, your gut, your intuition, the way in which you're feeling, you feel it inside. You get the nervous butterflies and it just all gives you a twisted stomach and doesn't feel quite right. Well, that's something that's been happening to me really, really recently. I've been podcasting now since March of 2019. My Financial Pro podcast is over 150 episodes, or we're just approaching 150 episodes, and we're over 100,000 downloads now. And that podcast has been happening through the repurposing of content. Repurposing live videos that I could do every single day on my social media channels, and then taking those and putting those onto those podcast episodes where I was talking specifically about, building my mortgage brokerage, building my financial services business, interviewing people within the financial services space. And for a long time, I've wanted to release this podcast. Wanted to do something outside of financial services, because that's only a small percentage of what I do. And realizing where I want to take my personal brand. What's the next 40, 50, 100 years look like for me? It's all about inspiring you to be more proactive so you can achieve more mentally, physically, and therefore financially. Proactive is the brand name merge of my two brands, and we decided on that. It was going to be called the Gary Das Podcast, I think, as I said in one of the early episodes. But we made the decision that it was better to go with something that's got more longevity, that's all about being proactive. We can bring you inspirational stories that gives me the time and the freedom to talk about fitness, business, mindset, motivation, launching online, which is an episode that's going to be coming up because I've launched my book twice and got to #1 in Amazon in multiple different categories. When I launched this podcast, it got to #1 in business and in marketing. I've done multiple 5-figure launches within my coaching and mentoring business. Now, that wouldn't be relevant to my financial services audience, hence why I wanted to bring you this podcast. But what has happened in these initial 13, 14 episodes during this Financial Pro podcast, the Proactive podcast launch, is I've been recording specifically for the podcast episodes. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's been a real challenge. How often have you felt challenged doing something that doesn't feel quite right to you, where you perhaps listen to others and go down a route that isn't quite congruent? Especially when it comes to content marketing. Content marketing shouldn't be hard. Social media is about being social. It's about engaging with your audience. It's about inspiring. It's about having fun, doing content that you really enjoy doing. Because if you enjoy doing the content, then it's going to find the people who enjoy watching it. Does this make sense to you right now? Think about it. I'm having a massive amount of fun creating reels on Instagram. Now, I don't want to be consistent with TikTok. I can't be consistent with TikTok as well as reels. It's tough. It's a challenge to do too many things and spin too many plates at any one point in time, which is why, weirdly, you might think it doesn't sound too difficult, but sitting down and doing a podcast episode and mapping and planning it out actually takes a lot of brain space. And when you don't have brain space, that affects your creativity. So the anxiety that I was feeling over producing some of these proactive podcast episodes was because I was doing it outside of my natural flow, what I naturally feel good at. And you might feel this in your own business and in your own life. You might feel this in your own content marketing. You either do video, you do podcast, or you do written. You will have one that you are naturally drawn to and that you can naturally do consistently over a long period of time. And producing a podcast episode specifically was a real tough gig for me. As soon as I put a camera on to record it as a podcast episode, I don't know what it is. I still find it immensely difficult. But as soon as I go live on Facebook and I put that camera on, weirdly, I allow myself the freedom to mess up. I allow myself the choice to say, it doesn't matter, I'm live, it's live TV. Just crack on and get it done. So I am live on Facebook now and delivering this live because I know that this audio can be taken and be repurposed to a podcast episode. And I want to leave you with this message that if you're doing something that doesn't feel right, if you're unable to be consistent with your content marketing because you're not having fun with it, you're fearing what other people are going to say or do, you've got to push your comfort zone without a shadow of a doubt. But prolific is by far better than perfect. Making sure that you are able to be consistent, that you're able to do it daily, that you're able to put a message out there to inspire the masses, to reach an ideal audience, as I've spoken about in previous episodes. You have to build a brand that stands for something, that stands against something. You have to know your ideal customer so you can serve them with a huge amount of value. You have to understand that that's audience building in branding and in customer. But you need to be able to capture their attention and remove the audience from social media into your database where you own the data. That then gives you the opportunity to put in sales automation that will take everything to the next level and will automate the process. So this is me making a commitment to getting back to doing my daily live videos, because out of 6 to 7 videos per week live on social media, doing what I enjoy, we can then do what I preach, which is take that and turn it into a week's worth of content. 2 of those episodes will be specific episodes that I'll do for my podcasts, but I will do them as feels natural to me. I'm going to remove the pressure and I'm going to have some fun with it. And the 3-strike rule and the intuition, this has been playing on my mind for a good few episodes now. I love doing interviews. They're really easy. It takes the pressure off. But in producing these singular episodes where it's just me talking to you, inspiring you, motivating you, getting you to take some consistent action, I'm going to be repurposing the live videos, because that's the best way that I can be consistent and I can get the message across. That's the way in which it suits my natural flow and my natural style. You have to test, you have to measure, and you have to follow your natural flow in life, in business, in marketing, in social media. And when something doesn't feel right, remember that 3-strike rule. If you're really pondering over it, if you still think it a week later, you have to do something about it, no matter how big the decision is. And if you need help, if you need, someone to answer the question and to help you get to the decision that you need to make in your life or in your business, then I'm always here for you. That's why I have coaching clients. That's why I help them go to the next level, achieve more mentally, physically, and financially. Because when you have someone else that you can ask the question to, that you can lean upon, you're able to get more results faster in your own life. So thanks very much indeed for tuning in to today's show. I hope that has inspired you. I would love to know what you think. I am recording this through my laptop using the same microphone onto Facebook, but in some of them, I'm going to be doing my phone with my lavalier mic on my stand, as I've done many times before, hundreds of times before, and we're going to be repurposing that content across to this podcast as well. So thanks very much indeed for tuning in. Lovely to see some of you here live. Make sure that if you're listening on the podcast, come and connect with me on Instagram. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Make sure that you go back and listen to the other 13, 14 episodes. We've had some fantastic people on. The amazing Neil Patel, marketing genius, probably one of the leading, if not the leading SEO experts online. We've had Jamie Alderton, who's huge in the fitness space when it comes to personal brand and overcame massive adversity in changing his business model and structure a couple of years ago. And the episode before this one, Babylon Brooke, who I met through Clubhouse, who spent 9 years on a massage table after having an absolute tragic accident, being a leader in her field, walking the red carpet multiple times per week, to then spending 9-10 years on a massage table. Truly inspirational story. Truly one that makes you realize how fortunate and lucky we are. Never take it for granted. Love every single day. Do what you love, and you will get more results, because you'll be able to do more of what you love with who you love. Thanks very much indeed for tuning in. Remember, now's the time to become pro.